G'day guys, and welcome to the channel. So today's an interesting video. I have the car on the market and it's being inspected by a serious buyer tomorrow. And what I've done, I've put the stock air filter back on and got rid of the big RR Racing tuned filter. So I took it to the dyno today because I was really curious how much power I would lose running the factory air filter as opposed to the RR Racing big K&N type scenario there, and also the larger mass airflow. The other thing was the car was run with the full exhaust system, as in from the axle back. Last time I ran it on the dyno, and also when I ran the 1210, I had drop pipes and I wasn't running the factory rear exhaust. So I was very interested to see what would happen with the factory mufflers and the factory intake. And I'm going to show you some graphs, and it's actually quite remarkable. I did have to get a revised tune to use the factory air intake because the mass airflow tube is smaller. So big thanks to Loy. He sent me one which revised that. Put that in and put 98 octane in and a little bit of octane booster, and took for a drive, and the car went really well. And the KCLV is in the mid 25s on both, so the low and the high. Anyway, we ran on the dyno and my jaw dropped because I was expecting maybe a 400 horsepower, like a 10 horsepower drop. It was identical, 410 horsepower. We did 3 runs. The first run was 407, I think it was, and I was happy with that. I thought that's good. And then we did another run and the KCLV came up and a few other things, and it ran 410 horsepower. The computer froze on the dyno, so we had to reboot that. That was about a 5 or a 10 minute delay. Started the car back up, went back in, and it ran another 410 horsepower run. What it did do, actually picked up some bottom end torque between runs 2 and 3. So that was good. I was really happy with there was no power loss. So did I waste the money with the big RR Racing air intake? I guess, maybe, I don't know. It's hard. But anyway, I'll show you the dyno runs and we'll talk about some graphs, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, much better air free ratio.
That's not bad. That's only what, 5 horsepower. Exactly the same.
Yep, same.
410.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do all the arguments about how restricted the factory exhaust is. It's not. That's just a secret. 410.
Yep.
That's repeatable, eh? That's real. Okay, so here we are. This is the last dyno tune that I've done, or couple, and in the blue line and the orange line, I'll just zoom in a little bit so I can see it a bit better. The blue line here, it made the most power. It actually hit 412 horsepower up top, but it was super rich down here, super lean, sorry, down here. So I got a revised tune and it took out the richness, made it leaner, under about 4,500 RPM, and we had a much better power curve and made more power. Top end was actually almost identical, came out at about 410 horsepower. But what's interesting, today's run, try and get these worked out. Okay, so this is a little bit messy, but hopefully we can. I'll get rid of run 2. So I'll get rid of run 2, and run 3 was the best run we had today. And this column here, we've got the RR intake and the open exhaust. So it was very interesting to see that down low, almost the same up to about 4,000 RPM, and then there's a bit of a dip. So the new run with the stock air cleaner actually lost a little bit of mid-range here, and then it caught up here, and then they just almost identical from 6 through to 7,200 RPM. Identical. So it came out with the same 410 horsepower. So the bottom end torque, so the mid-range is a little bit off there. I'm not sure why. We've got mufflers on the car, and we've also got a smaller diameter mass airflow. I don't think the air filter is restrictive. It's got the high performance Lexus air filter from Japan. But I'm blown away. I was expecting a horsepower drop. So this brings up some interesting questions. The factory rear mufflers on the ISF, apart from being heavy, there's no power gain removing them or having them on as far as power goes. And also with the factory air filter, and I read a lot of people saying that the factory air filter is actually pretty good. I don't know if it's actually worth putting the big air cleaner on. If you get a good tune with the factory air cleaner and a really good exhaust, I think the car will run as good as it would with an aftermarket air intake K&N filter in a larger tube. This is, I think, pretty interesting because it's a back-to-back. It's on the same dyno. The fuel is the same. The tune is the same, except it's got a revision for the different size mass airflow diameter. The difference, well, there's no differences other than that. So I'm pretty impressed. Would every car react this way? I don't know. Could you get more top-end power? And this is the other thing I've noticed is every ISF, and even the IS350, with the stock power, the power peaks at around about 6,600 RPM, but it's a lot lower. So the power sort of comes up here and it wiggles and then lowers down. But so everyone I've seen that's put a tune in the car and done the exhaust and done what I've done, the power seems to peak at around 6,100, 6,300 RPM, and then it tapers off, and the torque just drops quite quickly. I don't know if it's part of the VVTi system or it's just how the engine, once it gets to a certain point, it just runs out of breath. So you've got a really good intake I've poured and polished my intake. I've polished the throttle body. I've got the unequal length headers and a really good free-flowing exhaust system, but the power just drops off, and they all do it. I had a look at about 50 dyno sheets online, and they all do the same thing. They also have a dip here. Mine seems to be a little bit more pronounced. I've got actually the maximum torque is here at about 3600 RPM, then it drops away, then it peaks again at around about 5300 thereabouts. They all do that as well. They all have this hole in the middle, and from what I've been talking to a few people, it seems to be that it's the variable valve timing where it changes over and it phases in and phases out, and you end up with this dip here. It's probably not a big deal, because if you're going under full throttle, you change gear at say 7,000, 6,800, 7,000, the power drops back into the mid 5,000 RPM range, and even in even closer gears, as higher you go, it gets closer gearing. So this hole, the only time you have this hole is in first gear as you're accelerating through and getting through that first 60 foot. You will use first gear. I think if that could be remedied, if there was a way to keep the torque curve more tabletop through here, you would pick up horsepower here, and you'd have that mid-range from about 3,500 to 5,500 RPM. It would be a lot stronger through there, so that would also take time off the quarter mile as well. But anyway, I just thought that would be interesting to see. I'm not going to do any more on the car. I've spent a lot of money on this thing. I may do a video on what I've spent on this car. It's a lot, but I've had enough at the moment working on motor cars and spending a lot of money on them, and I've achieved what I wanted to achieve with this car. I mean, it's a sensational car, and at the moment it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Mechanically it's perfect. Cosmetically it looks awesome. The performance is exceptional. There aren't many 12.1, 12.2 second ISFs around, particularly in the condition mine's in. At the moment, I think it's probably one of the best 2010 ISFs in the country. So I'm putting it out there. Certainly one of the fastest. I don't think there's that many that are quicker, fully naturally aspirated. Will there be other ISFs in the future? I hope so, yes. I still want to get a 2014 model, and I will do exactly the same again, although I may do things differently. I don't know if I need to do the phenolic spacers. I don't think they make a huge difference. I'd certainly do a better job porting the inlet manifold. I would probably put a RCF throttle body on it and a custom intake, and see if that can, get a bit more flow going into the engine that way. I think this is the peak. It's about as much as you'll get out of these things. Some engines are better than others, but mine now is just running absolutely brilliantly, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. And that will be it until the next video, and I'm not sure what I'll do yet, but I'll get something out there. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and I will catch you later.